Nicolas Cage is probably one of our generation's definitive actors.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man, Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone's keeping well right now.
Hey everybody, Matt Guy here. It's short weather today, had the old pins out, but then I hear it's going to fucking snow again next week, so don't know what to do with myself. Stu, you have been in the thick of it, up and down the canal. Shorts or no shorts? Talk to me.
Today was... when I saw your picture in the other group chat, I was kind of devastated because I betrayed my family. I still had jeans on, so I thought there's no point going shorts for literally 4 hours when they're going to have to come back. The jeans are have to come back out again tomorrow. So I'm holding off for a hero and waiting a minute now, because if it's going to get cold again, then it's just wasting on the washing. And I did think about this, that the amount of times we talk about shorts every week, that when we inevitably run out of Nicolas Cage films, and if we do rebrand, it's shorts for 10, because it is 10 months of the year that we actually do wear shorts between us.
You know what, though? The shorts this week were for a different reason. But go on, sorry to interrupt.
And ironically, about a film about drinking and alcoholism, this is the first one in almost probably years that I've actually got squash and not beer, because there's nothing left in the house.
I've got nothing left. I had to wear shorts for reasons. So I'm going to take you a trip down memory lane. Not memory lane, because none of you know this, so it's the wrong phrase altogether. But I have about 2 pairs of jeans on rotation. I like that song by The View. And I bought some duck and cover jeans ages ago on M&M Direct. And they're just jeans. They're just, but I swear to God, I've worn them about 2 months, and I'm getting the same predictable hole in the crotch that I get on every pair of jeans. And I've got to do something on Saturday. Well, it'll already happen by the time you listen to this, with Sky Sports' Johnny Phillips. And I really don't want to be on camera with a hole in the crotch. And I reckon they've got 2 days more of wear before there's a gaping hole in the crotchular region. And I was like, I can't wear them. The other jeans are so massive, they've got to be held up with a belt, and I can't find the belt anywhere. And so it was shorts or joggers to work today. And I was like, I'm not going to work in joggers. So I had to wear shorts regardless of the weather, and I'll have to do it tomorrow, rain or shine.
If you are talking to a friend of the show, Johnny Phillips, which is, well, he's not a friend of this show, well, he might be, but he's a friend of the Fancast, you could borrow my yellow jeans for the day, and he would appreciate them very much.
Well, because I'm doing a piece on the visually impaired, they might think it's some kind of sensory thing. It's wearing the colours for those with tunnel vision or something. It's so no, I don't think I'll wear them. So I appreciate the offer though.
So when it comes to jeans, do you go with expensive jeans on the theory that they will last you a few years, or do you just go with cheap ones that you can churn over?
No, so I at the time I ordered the jeans, I ordered a pair of Wranglers, good old Wranglers, because Wranglers are the new Levi's now. Levi's are too expensive now. And then I ordered these ones because they didn't have the Wranglers in the standard issue grey that I wanted, but they had these in the standard issue grey I wanted, and that was literally the only reason why. It was a brand that I recognised, and they were grey. If I could have bought the Wranglers in grey, I'd have bought them in grey. Sadly, I couldn't.
I was in the Levi shop on Saturday, funnily enough, looking at jeans. £120 for 2 pairs. I just can't justify that. It's ridiculous.
Is it though? 2 pairs?
It is. Yeah, but then I think I could probably get about a dozen from Primark for pretty much the same price. That will last almost as long.
But is it like a middle-aged thing to only wear jeans and not wear any other kind of trouser? Because I don't own another kind of trouser than jeans. I don't own any chinos, or I don't own any not not. I don't own any slacks. I don't own I don't own anything other than jeans. Like that I'd
But
wear
why would
out.
you?
Well,
Why would you?
exactly. I think that, but like that's not the modern man, is it? That's not very Hugo Boss, is it? That I don't know.
I mean, I wore black skinny jeans to a wedding, the last wedding I went to. I didn't wear trousers or chinos of any kind. I wore black skin tight jeans, and that's because I wanted to, and I don't care. Well, clearly I don't care about most things, but I don't. I think I've got a couple of like 1930s like pinstripe black or gangster kind of Tommy gun trousers somewhere. But
I'm gonna whack this guy.
yeah, they ain't coming out for weddings anymore. Not in this century. So I just don't care anymore. So I don't. I'll have to have a look. Other than the multicolored ones, which we've mentioned. No, I don't think I have either. But
Have you ever worn a zoot suit, Stu?
I don't know what that means.
It's
What-
like the big 80s oversized,
Oh,
massive lapels and the likes.
yeah. I had a brown one, obviously. If you think of like X-Files series like 1 to 4, like what the things that he's got in there, where the trousers, he looks like a homeless person. That everything's so big. It was like that. I doubt very much that anyone's got any photos of that because it was late 90s. But yeah, I have in the past, obviously. But I've gone through the same thing with the jeans thing. I did used to just purely own 501s. That was just what I had. For that reason, that I only wore jeans 2 or 3 times a week, which meant they'd last a couple of years. So get the wear out of them. Obviously, being in the student days, you'd have your 501s for your Friday, Saturday best, and then you'd have some Asda or well, I don't think Primark was even there then. Maybe some Top Man jeans or something like that to get you through the week. But they do last longer. It's not a myth. They do last longer than that. But when you can get Jack and Jones skin tight black jeans, which are kind of my trademark now, that's what I'm going to have.
My issue is that no matter what pair of jeans I wear, I've either got one leg longer than the other, dramatically longer than the other, or an incredibly heavier bollock than the other. But the rip is always in the same place on every. I must favour the one side. I don't know how it happens.
You sound very like John Merrick like with this revelation.
I don't know what to tell you, pal. I go through jeans like they're out of fashion, quite literally.
Speaking of out of fashion, Katie had to talk me out of buying some white the other day.
Oh,
Really wanted a pair of white skinnies.
You're not Seth freaking Rollins. Pull that up. Good luck getting this podcast back on track, though.
Yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, films. Before we get into the film, the Oscars were last weekend, and obviously we'd already recorded our last podcast. Matt, what did you think of the results? Anything particularly surprising that stood out to you?
Not really. I've only seen like what comes on the news about these kind of things, but you know, to have Banshees win amongst it makes Stu seethe, gives me immense pleasure. To be in to be nominated for so many things and that. I don't know. I don't take a lot of it. I don't really enjoy all the Oscar stuff. It's a lot of, well, I can't remember what term you used, which made me laugh in the group chat. Was it backhanding or panhanding or something? Glad handing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, it's the thing that made me smile the most was Sam goes, wasn't he in Indiana Jones? And I was like, yeah, he was. Yeah. So like that was as much as I got out of the Oscars, to be honest.
Yeah, like I don't really care about the ceremony itself because it is just a lot of sucking each other off and it's just not particularly interesting. I just want to see the films that it's all associated with. Stu, obviously Everything Everywhere All at Once was your favourite film of last year, and that pretty much kicked everybody's arse. So
Yeah,
got to be quite pleased with that one.
that people in the know literally have the same thoughts as me, which is amazing, really. Yeah, I mean, the Banshees thing. I mean, I said it at the time. It was the shittiest, boringest film I've ever seen, and it just was. But the performances were great, and I'm so glad that it was nominated because it was so Oscar baity, and it didn't win. So ha ha ha. But yeah, it is what it is. And I had more fun watching the Chris Rock stand up a year on from the incident than even entertaining looking at who won or anything in the Oscars, because I just don't care. It's just it's what you just said. It's wanky backhander nonsense for snobs eight, really. But I'm glad that Everything Everywhere All at Once got what it deserved, and that was everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're here to discuss an Oscar-winning performance from Nicolas Cage, which is Leaving Las Vegas from 1995. I hadn't seen this film since either the late 90s or the early noughties. It's been at least 20 years since I've seen this one. I remember enjoying it, but when we'll come to it, but it's not the film I quite remember it being. I went in hoping it was going to be hoping it was going to be the film that it actually ended up being for me. That it was actually quite a lot harder hitting than I vaguely remembered. I thought it was a lot more sexual and like needlessly so, and I don't think it lent onto that. Matt, what were you? Because you said in the group chat the other day that you'd seen it, but it's been a lifetime ago that you saw it as well. So, what were your thoughts going into it?
Well, it turns out I hadn't seen it because I got it mixed up with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh,
I thought it was a completely wrong film, so I was like, hold on. This hasn't got fucking Johnny Depp in it. What the fuck's going on here? No. From what I knew about it, and obviously I knew about the Oscar thing, and I knew from what I'd seen kind of in the build-up, so I wanted to know a little bit about it, that it was like, sex heavy, and it's always going to be when you read the synopsis and it's about him meeting a prostitute and everything else. But I was really keen to know where, of all of the performances that we've watched in this podcast, only Pig for me is Oscar wanky enough to trouble that category, awards. I think there's maybe one or two others, but I was really keen to know, okay, so what's he going to be like here? Am I going to really hate his performance if he's won an Oscar for this? Because what's he going to be like for him to be given that award? So that was kind of what I was thinking going into it. And then after watching it, well, we'll get into it, I'm sure, but like some of the things that I read online were completely against what I saw, what the finished article was that I saw.
Stu, what were you thinking going in?
I think pretty much the same as you. That we've said it before a few weeks ago, not probably a few months ago now, where you watch a film now compared to what your adolescent mind was 25 plus years ago, and it was a totally different experience watching it now than then. And I watched this around the same time. So what you're talking DVD era, so early 2000s, I suppose, with The Usual Suspects and all that kind of stuff, Pulp Fiction, all that filmy films of the time where everyone's got the DVD in their collection. It doesn't matter. Maybe you've got the poster if you in a frame if you're that way inclined. But it was that kind of era of watching these kind of films together, and that was the last time I saw it. And it's not what I thought it was, but in a very good way at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. For me, it was a case of I was still a teenager when I saw it, and now being, nearly middle age, it hits differently and much better.
I had that experience not last night, the night before with East is East, where it is not the fucking film I remember it being at all. Like, at all. Like, there was some funny bits in it, granted, but, like, I ended up coming out of that film feeling really downhearted and felt quite poignant. And I don't remember it, but I just remember it being a funny joke and everybody calling each other bloody bastard bitch in the playground kind of thing. And this was like a film about culture clashing and domestic violence and stuff like that. And it's funny how you see things with different eyes years on. And like things that you thought were brilliant or saw in one way a decade on just feels completely different. It doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, but it was just a very different film.
You enjoy it in a different way, which sometimes is for the better, I think. So this one was directed by Mike Figgis, which is a name I only know from Leaving Las Vegas. Looking on his IMDb, he's got 45 director credits. There's a couple of music videos for David Gray, a Sopranos episode, and a lot of films I've never heard of. They all look a bit kitchen sink, grainy, drama-y. Like, he's from Newcastle, so I think that may influence his director style. If you know what I mean, like if you think of like maybe a Mike Leigh type thing, they all look like those particular kind of movies. The cast, there's a lot of faces you'd recognise in this, like Julian Sands, Richard Lewis, Emily Proctor. But this film is pretty much a two-hander. It's all about Cage and Elizabeth Shue. Shue's got some great films and shows quite recently, appearing in Cobra Kai, The Boys, CSI. But back in 1995, she was very much a family-friendly teenage dream of an actor. Like, she'd been in Karate Kid, Adventures in Babysitting, obviously Cocktail, which we did last year. And not to forget Back to the Future 2 and 3. So this film is quite a departure for Elizabeth Shue, as she would have been known at that point in her career. A bit like how Harry Potter's come out and started to do all these wacky things that you wouldn't necessarily associate with the young man that he was. It feels like this was her growing up film, almost, maybe. IMDb describes this film as Ben Sanderson, a Hollywood screenwriter who lost everything because of his alcoholism, arrives in Las Vegas to drink himself to death. There he meets and forms an uneasy friendship and non-interference pact with prostitute Sarah.
We're gonna let you go, okay?
Okay.
What are you gonna do now?
I thought I'd move out to Las Vegas.
My heart is crying, crying.
I just need some cash tonight.
Please, don't drink it in here.
Ben wasn't looking for a fresh start.
500.
$500 for a 93 Rolex Daytona. I'll do it.
He wasn't looking for any trouble.
I was wondering if you would buy me a drink.
Do you mind if I buy her a drink?
And he wasn't trying to fall in love.
I really wish you'd come home with me. You're so cute. And I'm really good in bed, too, believe me. No? Okay.
But now, on the road to nowhere, he's about to take a detour.
Hi! Are you working?
Working? What do you mean working? I'm walking.
It's pretty funny. If you'll come to my room for 1 hour, I will give you $500.
I'm gonna love you.
I'm Ben.
I'm Sarah. So what brings you to Las Vegas?
I came here to drink myself to death.
Why don't you stay at my place?
Okay. This is the home of an angel?
Are you okay?
Of course. Wow, you look extremely beautiful.
I do.
Let's get a drink!
I want you to see a doctor.
Both know I'm a drunk. Nurse! Then I know what you do.
Is this a full night's work?
I hope you understand that I'm a person who is totally at ease with this.
I was really worried about how that would be. No, I'm not.
Nicolas Cage.
I am not here to force my twisted soul into your life. I'm in love with you.
Elizabeth Shue.
I need you. I love you.
United Artists Pictures presents a romance as unexpected as love itself. Cosmopolitan magazine raves Nicolas Cage is electrifying. Vogue calls Elizabeth Shue's performance a career-changing revelation. And Rex Reed exclaims, Cage and Shu are heartbreaking and honest in Oscar-caliber performances.
I like it here with you.
Let's stay for a while.
Leaving Las Vegas.
The film opens out with a heavily drunken Ben Sanderson ruining his friend's dinner, the obnoxiously hitting on a woman in the bar, and then picking up a sex worker where he states he does know if he starts drinking. Where he states he doesn't know if he started drinking because his wife left him, or his wife left him because he started drinking. The following day, Sanderson tries to cash a check, but he's having the withdrawal shake so bad that he cannot sign for the check. He goes to a bar, and after a few drinks, he then gets it all together and returns to the bank. Whilst waiting in the queue to cash the check, Sanderson speaks a monologue about what he wants to do to the cashier, before confidently strutting over to her and then asking her out on a date. He's an entirely different man. At work later that day, Sanderson is called into his boss's office, where he's let go and given a severance check. He tells his former boss that he's thinking about moving to Las Vegas. On arrival in Vegas, Sanderson nearly runs Sarah over as she's crossing the street. With 25 minutes in at this point, it does move quite quickly at the beginning, I think. They set a lot up about Nick Cage's character, and then we meet Elizabeth Shue, who is going to be the other half to this movie. There's a lot of sex jazz music in this movie. How are we feeling about the opening to this film? Stu?
I was giggling along. The opening part was what I remembered it being. That it was everyone's laughing at him and the absolute state that he's got himself in, and it's all a bit of a shambles. And like how it's very American. Obviously, American Psycho came later, but the monologue to himself where he's thinking about feeding the cat to the ATM and that kind of madness where he's talking into the dictaphone. And I'm just giggling to myself, and I was amazed how much I actually remember, considering I've seen it once or twice, 20 odd years ago. But yeah, very, very good.
Matt, how did you feel?
Yeah, apart from it had the second hardest saxophone solo to Animal Hospital on it. It was really enjoyable, but straight away I could see the wanky nonsense, that the Oscar stuff that I referred to earlier. But it was really quick in setting the scene, which I appreciated. It was like, bang, there's no fucking about with it. It was just in, out, shake it all about. We knew where we were and what we were doing, why he's there in the first place. And I think it did that really well. And it's interesting because they kept him, throughout the whole film, they keep him really human. They didn't want to let him go at his workplace, but they had to let him go. It's implied that he is a nice guy. He's just has his demons, and it was consistent with it. And I felt that at the start of this film, and I felt that all the way through it. And I think the way that they did it with the when they fired him was really well done, and it just built to the sympathy that you feel towards the character in this film.
Yeah, completely agree. I thought it was great. Speaking of the jazz, the sax solo, apparently that was the director who was playing the saxophone on it. He was also like the musical composer on the film as well. So like half of his credits on IMDb are musical because he's a big jazz head, which is why I think there is so much sex jazz in this film. But yeah. Right, so the day after, Sanderson finds Sarah once again. He offers her money to come back to his room. When Ben gets Sarah into his room, she tells him that for $500 you can do whatever you want, and lists the acts that she's willing to do for that money. Ben actively recoils, being nervous. After Sarah asks if he wants to fuck now, he says maybe we should get another drink first, and then admits that he doesn't really care about the sex. He just wants her company. I did laugh during this scene when Sarah is blowing Ben, and Ben starts singing a song about Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very 90s, isn't it? Ben confesses he moved to Vegas because he wants to drink himself to death. He'd worked it out, and he assumes that it will take him about 4 weeks to do so. Sarah falls asleep at Ben's motel and then runs back to her pimp Yuri when she wakes up. She's worried about what happened because she only made $500 that night. Yuri beats Sarah for not making enough money. The next time Sarah meets Ben, he's smashed, drinking a martini on a park bench. He offers to take her for dinner. She turns him down, though, through fear of not making enough money to keep Yuri happy again. However, when she meets him in a hotel room, he tells her to go and never see him again. As she's leaving, the Polish mafia walk up to Yuri's door and we see them pull a gun. I found Yuri's story in this to be very bizarre. Like, Julian Sands is a fairly well-known actor. I don't know how famous he would have been in the mid-90s. But we get him having this weird relationship with Sarah where he's her pimp, but also maybe her lover, and then he kicks her out, and then we assume he gets murdered by the mafia. Like, his story is finished so quickly that it didn't feel like there was any point in actually having him in the film.
I think something's been cut. I think they've cut it for time, because I was surprised come the end of the film it was the run length that it was. I think they've just cut some of the story of him. Like, he was crucial to have him in, but they just didn't tell the story with him that they wanted to in the end.
That would probably make the most sense, to be fair. Yeah.
I mean, considering he's I'm guessing he was third billing, and he probably had as much screen time as the people who owned the shitty motel with a pool.
Yeah.
So it's all a bit odd, and that's the only thing that makes sense, really.
Yeah. With nowhere to go, Sarah goes back to Ben's motel, seeing if the dinner is still on the table. At the end of the meal, Sarah offers Ben a place to stay. Rather than the terrible motel that he's at, she offers to let him stay with her. Ben says, "I'm not much good at sex," and she replies, "It's not about the sex." So that's the 50-minute mark at this point. How do we feel about their meet cute and like the early stages of their relationship? Because the meet cute was very much like he nearly knocks her over in the car. It was a bit bizarre, but I quite like how they're sparring with each other in the early parts of this, trying to work each other out to see how they fit together, because there's obviously a spark between them, but they don't fully understand it and know that each person is broken in their own way, I suppose. Stu?
Yeah, it's two fuck-ups trying to figure it out, really. He's obviously destroyed through the drink. She's been destroyed by something else. But yeah, you can. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of sweet that you got two people who are so absolutely damaged beyond repair, almost. In her case, that they've still managed to find someone who's equally as bad and messed up, and I think because they are like that it works, and you can see like, oh, yeah, you can stay here, and like she's a sex worker who doesn't get any sex from her boyfriend, and you think, well, perfect, absolutely perfect. And what does he want? He just wants a roof over his head to drink himself to death. It's a partnership of convenience that goes further, which in a weird way seems natural. It doesn't see in any part of this. It didn't seem like it was forced. Like it was entirely believable.
Yeah, it does unfold in a very natural way, I think, throughout it. Matt, how are you feeling about the tentative stages of their relationship?
I think the film does a good job of getting their human elements across really quickly. She just needs some form of stability and security. He just needs companionship, and they kind of feed off each other's wants and needs, but also which I think is really interesting, they try and please each other by doing what they think the other person wants, which is just, it's just the strangest like dynamic that just works really well throughout the whole film, especially the last scene of them two being together. It's really well done. Like, the emotion is just pouring out of the screen. Even if there's not a lot of dialogue, even at times, it's just the actions of what they do is just, it feels very meticulous, and you can feel what the character's trying to display. And it really like hit home a lot of this film, not in a relevancy kind of way, but I don't know. It just, you could feel what the characters were feeling. And it's not very often I get that, if I'm going to be honest, in film. You know, you watch a horror and you might be scared because you're watching a horror, but you're not scared because of the reasons why the characters are being scared. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this, you felt what they were going through and you understood it because they're expressing it so well.
Yeah, completely agree. Like, there's so much unsaid between them, but at the same time, the way they interact, and like, you can almost read their characters' minds because the acting is so well done that, you know, everything is there for you to see on screen. And like, there's so many times we've seen films, especially of Nicolas Cage's during the, you know, the late 90s, most likely, where everything is so over the top and there's no sense of subtlety. But in this, it's the exact opposite to a lot of his work during this period. And I think that works fantastically well. Ben moves in with Sarah on the condition that neither person tries to change the other. He accepts her line of work as long as she accepts that he is a drunk. The couple go out that night to the casino. We see them passionately kiss before losing money, and then Ben losing his mind, tipping over the card table. And then when he returns home, he suffers from violent withdrawal shakes all night. At a public place the day after, Ben buys Sarah a pair of earrings. She says that she'll wear them tonight. She realises then that she's worried about how he's going to interpret that, because obviously she's working at night and he's not there. He responds by saying, yes, put it on, you'll be able to feel it sharp and hot under your ear. As one of the brothers is driving your head face down into one of the penthouse pillars. So cold and like so simmering with rage almost. And the way they look at each other after saying it, and like they don't quite know what's going to happen next. It feels like they're struggling to accept each other's shortcomings, but I still thought it was really well done during that part. At this point, Ben cannot stop himself coughing. Like, anyone who is semi-cine literate knows that an actor coughing means that his death isn't too far behind. After an uncomfortable time between the both, Sarah suggests they go away into the desert for a few days to get away. We see what might be the sexiest scene in a Cage film, which is sadly interrupted when Ben is unable to keep on his feet and falls into a glass table. He's a prickly pear. Look, we've seen a lot of films with Cage where he may have been married or had a girlfriend, but this one was probably the sexiest one that I think we've seen. Nothing else quite springs to mind. The other film that I can remember where he has sex in it is Drive Angry in 3D, where he's having sex with the barmaid. But this was like quite a genuinely quite sexy scene, I thought, in this one. Where am I? Yeah. His drinking is getting worse. A bottle of vodka in the shower. Like, we've all had a shower beer before, but I've never taken a bottle of vodka in with me. That's crossing the line, I think. Sarah wants Ben to see a doctor. He refuses and says that it might be time for him to move into a motel, leaving it to be inferred that that is his final endgame death plan. After a bit of an argument, Sarah frustratingly kicks Ben out. That night alone, Sarah is approached by a college-age group who lure her back to their motel and they brutally attack and rape her. So we're about to enter the end of the film. How did we feel about the middle portion? Like, their relationship is quite set at this point, but then we get the rape scene and the fallout, which I thought was really quite uncomfortable to watch. Matt, thoughts?
I thought I didn't know how they would have their issues and their falling out, but it was very predictable that they were going to have some form of falling out, and it ultimately come to a head. I didn't think it'd be like the way that they did it with Nick Cage getting with the only other prostitute in Las Vegas. But it was interesting because it's a weird one because again, those parallels between him completely accepting what she is, and then he like by then going with another prostitute. It's almost like she can't accept that's a normal thing to do. It was a really weird kind of balance between the two. The rape scene bit obviously was horrible. Obviously was horrible. But it's implied obviously that she's suffered abuse before and stuff like that as well. So it's the uncomfortableness wasn't necessarily the scene itself, but knowing what that character has been through and what's going through like after that scene. I think when she's like in the shower and stuff, it's just horrible. It wasn't like necessarily the scene itself that was the crushing bit of it, but like knowing what we know about this character that is so has so much life and so much joy, and like they're so happy when they're together, and she completely accepts that he's like can fucking ruin everything at a drop of a dime. For it to then happen to her, he's like it's proper down. It's proper down and disheartening.
I did think it was really well shot how they were juxtaposing the day after her dealing with the fallout while splicing it with scenes of what happened the night before, and you were jumping back between the two, and like you didn't know which was the most horrible, the after effects or what happened during it. They were both just kind of soul destroyingly terrible, and you fall in love with Sarah during this film. She's such a wonderful person who seems to be quite positive and bright in spite of the fact that she's led a life of abuse, and then it happens again, and it's horrible. And then obviously while she's dealing with that, she then gets kicked out of her apartment as well. Really moving, really hard hitting, and very well done, I thought. Stu, your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think that when you see earlier on with Yuri and the knife, like when he's cutting her arse and stuff, and that because you can't see that, and that's his thing. And then obviously when we come to see the scar later on, and you see, okay, there's that, and a bit that I didn't realise at the time, and when I thought about it after, when she said to the first time she's in the hotel with Ben, and she says like you can do my arse or whatever for was it £100 or for the night, for the hour or something. And then when them frat boys are doing it, and she's like, no. As soon as the one who stutters and that's his thing, then they're all giggling and filming. I mean, where they've got a regulation BBC camera from in Middle America in '95, that was enjoyable. But yeah, it was. You don't see many. Obviously, you don't see many rape scenes in film because it's terrible. But you don't see many at all, do you? I was trying to think where the last one that it's implied, but this went as far as I think you could possibly go without going too far. I thought, yeah, it was superb, very, very well done, and I think this is kind of where you come to it in a minute. This is where I didn't really understand, or didn't have the empathy levels back in the 90s to appreciate how good this was and how bad the actual incident was. Whereas now you kind of grown up and you realise, yeah, this was fucking awful.
Yeah. I don't feel like a lot of the time when we see either rape on film or implied rape on film, it can often feel quite exploitative. Like it's there for almost titillation. And at no part in this film did that feel like that was what this was for. So yeah, I thought it was really well measured out in that part. After returning home one night, Sarah gets a call from Ben. He's on his deathbed. Sarah visits Ben. He's barely able to lift his head and only does so to drink more vodka. They have sex and he passes away shortly afterwards. In the final scene, Sarah tells what we assume is her therapist that she loved Ben and she accepted him for who he was. Did she accept him for who he was? The last time they were together, she tried to get him to the doctors. Do we think she accepted him, or do we think she really just wanted to save him in the end of it?
Yeah, she wanted to save him. I mean, that was his one and only rule: don't stop me drinking. and she tried to stop him drinking. So clearly she didn't listen. Obviously, understandably so, because she'd gone way further than she expected at the start of all that. But yeah, I think she accepted his internal him, but not his drinking side, which he clearly enjoyed.
I think, like, don't get me wrong, I genuinely believed that Sarah loved Ben. I do believe that, but I don't believe that she accepted that he wanted to die. I think she saw the good in him. Matt, what do you think?
I'm not sure I agree. I think she accepted the fact that he had his demons, and I think that's where the line is drawn with it. Like, she accepts that he has his issues, but that doesn't mean like he's unfixable.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and in the same way that he accepted her, what her line of work was, but obviously held some resentment to it deep down. Do you know what I mean? So, no, I don't want to get too fucking pie in the sky about all this, but no love is really unconditional, is it? Let's be brutally honest. And that's the same with this. What I absolutely loved about that last scene, which shouldn't be heartwarming. It's not heartwarming, but I'm too tired and not clever enough to think of the right words. The second he saw that she had been abused, he reached for the tonic to keep himself alive, which was the alcohol, to stop the shakes, to get him going again. And she, at that point, accepted the fact that he wanted to die and didn't let him save her and finally let him go. And I just thought that was beautiful. I genuinely thought it was amazing. And I was like, as close to like standing up and clapping in my living room to a fucking TV that I'm streaming for a film I'm streaming illegally. Do you know what I mean? It was just wonderful. Like that. It was like a Romeo and not Romeo and Juliet, but it was like a tragedy of the one just wants to save the other and just do what they can, and then she finally allowed him to have his to have his rest. Like it's just it didn't get better than that. Honestly, it was brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great observation, actually. Yeah, really well put. I think in his own way, he did save her in the end, because you have the scenes where we assume she's talking to a therapist. It's never explicitly said, but it looks like she's now dealing with her trauma. So I think that he did save her, but probably didn't realise that he was going to do it. So, yeah, brilliant. Anyway, the budget on this film, I was quite stunned. $4 million budget. That's just incredible, even for the 90s. Like some of the other films around this time, you're looking at least 10 times that. But apparently they didn't have any permits to film in Las Vegas. So a lot of the time they were doing the filming whilst they were on the run from the cops, trying to not get caught. So that may explain why. The box office return, though, was just under $50 million, $49.8 million return, which is a very healthy return on their investment. So it was nominated for 4 Oscars: Best Actor, Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Director. I always find it weird when a film is nominated for a Best Picture and not Best Director, or vice versa. Like, if you're the best director, surely that's the best film, because film is a director's medium. It doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, so the film didn't get nominated, but the director did. Anyway, Best Actress went to Susan Sarandon for Dead Man Walking. I've never heard of that film, I've got to be honest. Adapted Screenplay went to Sense and Sensibility. Best Director went to Mel Gibson for Braveheart, which is the film that also won the Best Picture. And of course, Best Actor went to one Nicolas Cage. He was up against Richard Dreyfuss for Mr. Holland's Opus, Anthony Hopkins for Nixon, Sean Penn for Dead Man Walking, and Massimo Troisi for Il Postino. I think the only one of those films I've seen is Nixon with Anthony Hopkins. I don't think I've seen any of the others. Obviously, I don't think it's a spoiler to suggest that this is a very well-reviewed film. But tell me what you think. Matt, out of 10, out of 100 for your critics and audience.
I think critics will be high, 8.5 to 9. I don't think the audience. It depends, I suppose, on which medium you're getting your Rotten Tomato. I don't know when Rotten Tomatoes like existed as a thing, but I don't think it'd be quite as highly scored for that. I'd probably say 7.5. So 8.5 critics, 7.5 people.
Cool. Stu, what do you reckon?
I'd be amazed if either's any less than a 9. Just by what it is, and there is that though when the audience scores came in, that could change it, because it probably, ironically, it probably do better now than it did 20 odd years ago. Yeah, so critics 9, audience 8.
So IMDb was 7.5. The Rotten Tomatoes audience score is 85%, and the critical score is 91%. So it's a very well reviewed film. So the critical response: Eleanor Ringel from Cater Saporta Report in Atlanta. Shu's terrific and Oscar nominated, but the movie belongs to Cage, whose fierce, uncompromising performance is as serious as a hangover and as jittery as the shakes. You can practically smell the stale reek of booze on his soaked breath. David Anson said that a love story like no other, Mike Figgis's Leaving Las Vegas is a bleak, mesmerising rhapsody of self-destruction, defiantly uninteresting in peddling Hollywood's style uplift. And Owen Gleiberman, dark and giddy at the same time, Leaving Las Vegas takes us into a dreamy, intoxicated place no movie about an alcoholic has ever gone before. The fan response at Amazon.com, 4.4, which sounds fine, except City of Angels and Captain Corelli's Mandolin both got 4.6, and Valley Girl has got 4.8.
Obviously.
Leaving Las Vegas has got 85% 4 and 5-star reviews, but some folks didn't like it. Sir Martin Frobisher gave it a 2-star review. I thought it was an okay movie and note that Cage got an Oscar. Having said that, my reaction after watching it was, Cage did not portray an alcoholic very well. His part is overplayed. I know alcoholics and they do not act like he did. He was trying to drink a bottle of whatever in a nanosecond. The true addict sits at the bar for hours, gently sipping a glass of scotch. It's the total time they take. Cage has not observed or has been badly directed. And Sandboy gave it a 1-star review. Good films bring out your best emotions. Watching this one will make you depressed at best. A wafer-thin plot based on human weaknesses and vice. It's not good at all. As if this isn't enough, the scene with the shockingly violent female abuse will make any decent person cringe and want to switch off. It's dated sleaze and is well past its sell-by date. Even Vegas deserves better in its depiction. It gets it in films such as The Hangover. I've seen that several times and it still makes me laugh out loud. After which you sleep soundly. Don't watch this one at night, if at all. It will leave a dark cloud of human gloom over you. I don't know how to respond to that. Fuck The Hangover. Yeah. Watch that instead of Leaving Las Vegas. Anyway, Good, Bad and Crazy. Stu.
I mean, the good is the performances of everyone. Maybe Yuri is a bit stupid. That character, what was left of that character, and the fact that the accent is clearly ridiculous. But again, ridiculous in 2023 eyes rather than like Alan coming in GoldenEye bad. Like, I am invincible, which seemed at the time fine, but obviously not now. It's stupid. But yeah, they're them two absolutely outstanding performances, just great. One thing that I don't think has been mentioned anywhere, the makeup, and not her abuse makeup, how he starts going jaundice towards the end. And just drawn out and gaunt. Obviously, he doesn't eat anything through the whole film of that. just exactly as what happens. I mean, I've sadly known alcoholics who obviously in this world of following balls up and down the country for 20 odd years, you get to know these people, and a couple of them have died through alcohol abuse. It happens, and they do go from sipping all day long, like that guy said, to drinking whole bottles of whiskey like they are tonic water. They're just what they are. I thought it was just nailed on. It's exactly as you'd expect. And the fact that they didn't shy away from being anything other than showing exactly how real and terrible it is. Brilliant. Brilliant all round. Bad. This is going to be controversial, I think. I thought the music was fucking shocking. And it was... yes, saxophone, yeah, funny, huh? But it was the fact that they repeated the same song over and over and over again for no apparent reason. It didn't really... It seemed a bit jumbled and not... like by far the worst part of the film. Obviously, I'm not a music expert. We've said this before many times. But it just didn't seem right. It didn't fit. It was like it was mashed from somewhere else. There's parts where the song had come in and it looked like it should have been about 10, 20 seconds earlier or a different thing altogether. Just really, really odd. And the crazy... There's a couple. I'll go with the one that I found first, because there's the other one that's just... I'm guessing that someone will mention the fact that Cage got pissed and filmed himself pissed to see how he acted, so he could then copy himself being drunk. That just absolute genius, and it paid off.
Brilliant, Matt.
So the good is the believability of the characters and their plight, and like everything that happens in this film, bar my crazy, could happen. Like it's entirely believable, and it's amazing that they make it that way, because you understand, like I mentioned earlier, you understand, like they explain and portray the emotions so believably that you just think you're watching something that is happening in real life. It's just really exceptional how they did that. My bad is the runtime, but the other way, I actually think it needed more. I really rarely say that, but I think this deserved like a little bit longer to kind of drag out the his downfall a little bit. I think it was a smidge too quick. I think it was just like it obviously we know that's what he wanted to do, but it kind of felt a bit like a bolt out of the blue at the end. Like I think it would have been damaging to him if they had more like crazy scenes of him going mental and throwing things around, because like I said earlier, they hint that he's like a good guy and he's just been took over by his demons, and that's fine. But I just felt actually the runtime, they could have done a little bit more, and like that Yuri stuff, actually if they could have like fleshed that out a little bit more, I don't think it would have done any harm to actually have explained more about her side and her demons and everything else that she's gone through. They kind of rushed that a little bit. But my crazy is Elizabeth Shue was the complete wrong casting for this role. She did a great performance, but she's far too fit for that character. I genuinely believe it, honestly. I think she was too attractive for that character. And then that's going to sound bizarre, and I'm not saying that like you can only be abused if you're a prostitute if you're ugly. That's obviously not the headline that I'm trying to say here. But that was the only slight thing. But like there's been other films with Nick Cage, and that I've been like, how the hell is he bedding these beautiful women and he's Nick Cage? So maybe there's an element of that to it. But I just thought she was almost too good looking for the role that they were trying to portray her to be. Does that make any sense?
She hasn't got that lived-in look of someone you would expect who has been through what she's been through.
Yeah.
But that normally comes from drug abuse, then, don't it? I think that's why they went that way, where the kind of Amy Winehouse kind of haggard, like sunken cheek hooker look, which I'm guessing that's insinuating there. That comes from heroin and stuff like that, though. So the fact that she didn't have any demons other than opening her legs for money, which is professionally the oldest in the world. That's why I liked it, because you do get, like, you can turn Babe Station on and there are incredibly pretty girls on there. Behind the makeup and everything, they might look like Hagrid, you don't know, but I doubt it. So I don't know. It was the 90s as well, remember? So
yeah, I think so. The way I thought of it in my head was, if they were doing this film now and they were following the same mantra, they'd put Margot Robbie in, and it just wouldn't work. I don't. Do you know? Does that? I don't know. There's just something about. I just thought she's like. It just didn't quite fit for me. That, like, she did. Her performance was fantastic, and she did, like, she won other awards and stuff for. Like, I'm not taking anything away from that. It's gonna like, out of context, this is going to sound like a really weird comment. But it was just, there was just something, like, she was so gorgeous in this film and after I'm sure. But it was almost like the Nick Cage, seeing her and Nick Cage put together just didn't, like, work as a match on a purely aesthetic level.
Okay, yeah. I think when it comes to how media represents prostitution in Vegas to, say, New York, for example, a Vegas stripper looks like a model. Sorry, a hooker, not stripper. Looks like a model. They look very glamorous and everything. Whereas they look more like heroin addicts when they show them in other cities around the world. So I think there is a certain element of that as well played into it, to do with the settings as much as anything else. My good, this is a proper no fooling director's film. So I heard this quote the other day, which I thought summed it up perfectly, where they were saying that any award at the Oscars is actually the director's award, whether it's, costume or makeup or whatever, because it's the director who chooses the shots in the film, who chooses what they want to be shown on film. So no matter how good you do your job, it's still the director at the top of it. And I think every element of this film is absolutely fantastic. From the acting, I think the casting is on point. Stu, you made a good point about the makeup. Like, he looked like he was on death's door, and it didn't look like he's going to look like fucking Dracula next month or whenever the film's out. Like, he looked like he was about to drop dead. It was so well done. The way even the clothing they wore, I don't know if they made him wear shirts that were oversized or if he just dropped that much weight, but everything looked perfect for this film, especially with it being mid-90s. So it was a little bit like heroin chic was a thing at that point in the world. So I think it was just fantastically well done on every level. And I think Mike Vigas has done a hell of a job, which is why I'm so baffled that when I look at his list, there's absolutely nothing else on that list that has got good reviews or I've even heard of. So I think he captured lightning in a bottle with this one. My bad is exactly the same as yours, Stu. The music is so distracting. It doesn't fit through large portions of it, and there's no real theme to it. So there might be one bit where it's just like an orchestral piece. Then the next piece is like sex jazz. Then the next piece is like some kind of fucking loungefly singer. It's a little bit mishmash, and it doesn't gel together, and it really detracts. Plus there's one bit where they've got the lounge singer, and the volume of the singer is so loud, I struggle to hear what Cage and Shu were saying in this movie. That was an issue, and considering the director was the one who put all of the music together, that's where he blotted his notebook on that one. I think he got that completely wrong, personally. And my crazy, I didn't realise that this was actually based on a book. It's a semi-autobiographic book by John O'Brien, who I've never heard of. But John O'Brien, he took his life 2 weeks after the film started filming. They were originally going to scrap the film because of his death, but then Mike Figgis decided it would be a better homage to O'Brien's life than actually just not producing the film altogether. And the other thing, Roger Ebert ranked this movie as the 7th best movie of the 1990s, which I think might be an interesting top 5 to do one day. Best films of the 90s. So, The next question is, did you enjoy the film? So I'm going to split that because it's a difficult film to enjoy because it's tough. So did you enjoy it? Did you think it was a good film? Would you recommend it rather than enjoy? Because how can you enjoy the horrible scenes that we see in this film? Matt, what do you think?
Well, yes, and yes. I did enjoy it because I do like a good human story. You know what I mean? There was very little bells and whistles from a visual point of view. Yes, you're in Vegas, but he didn't need to be in Vegas. He could have been leaving Dudley. I don't know. Like it was the human story. It was a human story rather than kind of this, the setting, I suppose. And yeah, I thought good movie. Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was, for all the reasons we've discussed ad nauseum here. One of the most compelling films from a purely character-driven point of view I've seen in years. Really was. And would I recommend it? Yeah, I did. The morning after, to everybody that would listen. So I can't really say any more than that. I think, I really enjoyed talking about this film. I can't say that very often about half the stuff that we watch for this. In terms of not enjoying the podcast, but enjoying talking about the film for the pod. You know what I mean? And people owe it themselves to see it, just to feel the emotions that they feel from it. I'd be interested to see what emotions people get from it as well when they do watch it.
Speaking of talking about films after we've watched them, I'm amazed on Twitter how much interaction we've had with people about The Croods. We've had more interaction about the Croods than we have with most of the films we've watched. I'm kind of stunned at that. Just going back to the pod we did a couple of weeks ago, and this kind of this feels like a bit like The Croods in that way that it feels like there's so much good to talk about this movie
for sure
that I didn't necessarily know we would be. Stu, what do you think?
I mean, the only reason I wouldn't recommend it to anyone is because every fucker's already seen it. That's why when Matt said, "Oh, I'm gonna rewatch it," when I was stunned when he said he was rewatching it, because I thought that he meant that he'd never seen it before, because it's one of them films that everyone has seen it, everyone has seen The Bodyguard and things like that.
I've not seen The Bodyguard.
Oh, for fuck's sake! It's too popular, see? It's too nice.
That's it. Yeah.
Have you seen Waterworld?
Yes.
This is the
that's
wrong
why
way.
I've not seen The Bodyguard.
That's the wrong way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a triple yes for me as well, really. But it's outstanding performance. And looking at, IMDb hinted at it in the thing that this is potentially the only film ever that's got the screen test as part of the actual film. Which seems a mental thing, and the fact that the camera which makes sense why the camera was a different coloured arrangements and everything else compared to the rest of the film. They're talking about her when she's talking to what seems like a therapist, which was her actual screen test, which was very, very clever. But yeah, like I said at the start, I went into this expecting to be giggling throughout the whole film and laughing along, and that ended after about 40 minutes. And then you just see the downfall of a sad, broken, effectively a loser who's killing himself, and he's been engrossed in the demon drink, and nothing's stopping him, regardless of what happens to him and regardless of what good he gets. How can you not enjoy watching? How can you not enjoy the portrayal of watching something like that? Because it's very rare that you get it done like this and done to this quality. It's just magnificent all round. Superb.
Yeah. I like the film studenty inside me. Loved all of the aspects of it. Everything on screen, and I even read the script as I was going along with parts of it. I was really engrossed in it. I thought it was fantastic, really, really well done. And as Matt said, I like a human interest story. I like where it's the characters driving the narrative, not the narrative driving the characters. And that's what this film is to a T. And I would absolutely recommend everyone to watch this film. If you haven't seen it, you must watch it. If you haven't seen it for 10 years, I'd say give it a watch, because you are probably a different person to who you were. And I think you will probably get something completely different out of it. So, yeah, I couldn't recommend this film anymore, to be perfectly honest. This feels like a redundant question, but based on this film, was Nicolas Cage good or was Nicolas Cage bad? Stu?
Exceptional.
Matt?
Yeah, potentially his best.
Yeah, I completely concur. Yeah. Finish the sentence. If you enjoyed Leaving Las Vegas, you may also like. Matt?
It was tough, this, because I couldn't really think of like the human story that I enjoyed as much as this, but I do really like a Vegas setting for a film, and I haven't seen it for so long that I'm gonna have the same kind of worry that I'm not gonna like it. Not like it, but I'll just see it as a different film, and that's Casino. I haven't seen Casino for so long, and I'm gonna try and watch it over the weekend just because I love that Vegas setting, the seediness of it, and the last days of Rome, Sodom and Gomorrah that is Las Vegas. So I think, from what I remember, if you liked that element, you'll like Casino.
Question for you: Goodfellas or Casino?
Casino is a drama and Goodfellas is a gangster film. Is kind of so. It depends what you're after, I guess. I remember, like, how it's interesting because you know how they say like it's wives on a Friday, girlfriends on a Saturday. It's kind of like it's Goodfellas on a Friday and it's Casino on a Saturday. They're two different two nights of the week where you want two different types of film, and that's exactly how I feel about Casino and Goodfellas. And I won't be pinned down I won't be pinned down to an answer. God damn
it. Stu, what would you recommend?
Again, difficult because of what we've just watched, but from a purely, I'm wondering now if I will appreciate Trainspotting in a different way 20 years on, like I did with this. And obviously there's lots of Trainspotting that's incredibly stupid and deliberately funny. But will it be as... Will I see the other side of that now? So for that reason, I'm going to say for myself to watch Trainspotting now, because it's been in the years, and obviously I didn't watch Trainspotting 2 for that reason, and I just never got around to it because I was going to watch it, the first one again, and never did. So, yeah, to myself, I recommend to watch Trainspotting.
I watched Trainspotting during the first lockdown, and yeah, I got something completely different out of it second time round. So I think there's every chance you will, because the first time I watched it was on the journey back from, I think, Bradford away, watching it on a Wolves coach. So
the same one when we won 3-0.
No, I think we lost 3-2. Don Goodman scored. Yeah, I'm sure it was Bradford. Yeah, but that was when I watched it. So yeah, watching it years later, I got something completely different out of it. But both of you have said, like, this is quite a difficult one to pin down something similar. So I've gone with the exact opposite. American History X. It's still a personal story, but whereas this is about desolation and despair, American History X is about redemption and growth. And then at the end of both of those films, it completely flips. So whereas American History X leaves you feeling horrendous, at this one, you're left with the light of Elizabeth Shue, looking forward and looking positive. So American History X is mine because it's the mirror image of this film. It's the yin to its yang, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. And they've both got some absolute powerhouse performances in. So yeah, that's mine. Right, so that's another Nick Cage movie in the record books. If you've seen this one or any of the others, get in contact. You can get us on the socials at CageFightingPod or emails to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. Please make sure you subscribe on whatever podcatcher you're using so that you don't miss an episode. And if you could leave us a review, we would really appreciate it. Thank you for giving us your time this week. It's much appreciated as ever. And for this week, Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, everybody. Look after yourselves. Comment vodka, shower vodka when we post this out so we know you stayed till the end as well.
Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
I don't get the whole drinking in the shower thing. I've never enjoyed it at all. Yeah, goodbye.
Out of everyone in this group, I would have thought you would be the one who would be fucking beer on your cornflakes, to be honest, Stu.
Yeah, but the water dilutes the drink because it's getting in there, and even if you popping your head out like a giraffe in The Last of Us, to drink and then go back under the water again, it messes with the formula. So I've had drinks in pool, obviously, and floating around in the garden, but not in the shower.
You don't let the water go in the can. You put the can on top of the shower, and then you just take a swig.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing. You have a swig, and then depends. If you're drinking with your mouth open, just bad times bears.
Yeah, you've let the team down there, Stu. It's goodbye from me, and remember, I'm a prickly pear.